All right, hello class. So for today, we're going to go ahead and talk about Southeast Asia, more specifically though about deforestation in Southeast Asia. Now, the Southeast Asia countries, there's quite a bit of them, but for today, we're going to go ahead and focus on the two, or just two, Indonesia and then Malaysia here. All right, so before we actually dive into the whole deforestation topic, let's go ahead and just sort of review where exactly in the world Malaysia and Indonesia are. Okay, so obviously we have here a Google Earth, Asia, the continent. So India's over here, and then we talked about like China and Japan over here. Japan's over here and China's over here. Now, as far as Indonesia and then Malaysia goes, and you know, if you did your map quiz, you should at least have an idea of where they are. Malaysia is going to be the country right here, and then Indonesia is going to be all these islands all along the bottom area of Asia over here, or Southeast Asia. All right, so what we're talking about for today in with the deforestation in Southeast Asia, it's going to be mainly these countries of Malaysia and then Indonesia all around here. Okay, so getting back into the Word document here. Okay, so also as we're going through this, it's not really like the usual like PowerPoint sort of lesson video. So I have this note sheet here, and you all at home, or if you're watching this in a classroom, a very good idea, in fact, you should be doing this, is have out a sheet of paper or on a device or however way you take notes, is to go ahead and actually be typing up or writing this stuff down, especially when we start getting into the pro or the for arguments in favor of deforestation versus the anti or the against arguments against deforestation. Okay, so at the very least, you should have this T-chart here that we're going to go ahead and fill out later on in this video. But you should be taking notes in preparation for tomorrow's lesson, which is going to be basically a debate of pro-deforestation versus anti-deforestation arguments. Okay, so that's what we're going to have in class for tomorrow. But the information that's going to help us with tomorrow's lesson, tomorrow's debate, it's today. So the information is going to be today, and the arguments, the debate is going to be tomorrow. So you got to make sure you're paying attention and taking notes here today. Now, getting into deforestation itself, what exactly is it? I'm sure you all are at least vaguely familiar with what deforestation is. It's basically the cutting down or the burning of forests in favor of like agriculture or urbanization, as in the like creation of farmland, creation of settlements for people to live, as well as like industries. Okay, so it's not just you know, the bad guys going out and just killing forests just because for the heck of it. It actually has reasons for it. All right, it actually is a very important reasons, honestly, for why people deforest in the first place. Okay, so deforestation here is the not cleaning, but clearing of forest areas across the world in exchange for agriculture and urbanization. Correcting me there, I spelled it wrong. Okay, so remember, agriculture is going to be basically like farming, and urbanization is the creation of like cities, all right, or areas where people live or work. Okay, so it's not just all negative. Okay, it's not deforestation is just the most evil thing ever, and it should absolutely 100% never happen. There is actually some reasons for why people do it in the first place. Okay, namely in terms of creating like farmland and areas like cities. Now, in terms of like industries, important industries in Indonesia and Malaysia that kind of tie back into deforestation, that's going to be the paper industry in Indonesia. And hopefully you know by now that paper comes from trees. So we kind of need to cut down trees for paper, as well as logging and then palm oil. Logging being like they don't actually burn the trees, they cut them down and use them like logs for other purposes, like building bridges. And then palm oil is kind of like the big thing that we're going to talk about here, more of that later on in the video, where it's an extremely versatile oil. They grow like these palm oil trees, and they harvest those trees in Indonesia and Malaysia for that oil that we use in like basically almost everything, from clothes to food to even cleaning products that we buy in like supermarkets. And we need to, or deforestation has to take place in order for these industries to thrive. Okay. Now, getting into the actual arguments itself for deforestation versus anti-deforestation, we're going to go ahead and get into this next picture here. Okay, so first off, right off the bat, for why people would actually, deforest in the first place, or why they would cut down those forests, one of the big reasons is for settlements to be able to be created. So settlements, spelled right, settlements able to be created. Also things like roads as well. So like houses where people live, roads, all those sorts of things, areas where people live and kind of do activities, that is could be considered like a settlement. Okay, and it's really hard to have settlements whenever you have a whole bunch of like trees in the way. Okay, so a picture here, I believe this was taken in either Malaysia or Indonesia, and you can see here a recently deforested area, and they actually built houses here. Okay, so again, it's not just people cutting down trees just for the heck of it. There's actually a legitimate reasons for why people do this in the first place. One of them being to make houses, and the wood here using these houses was probably made from the wood that was recently deforested here in Southeast Asia. Okay, so another thing, or another big reason why people cut down forests or rainforests in the first place is due to making things like plantations, kind of going back into the agriculture. Here in this photo is going to be that palm oil plantation that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so the next thing here for the pro or the for deforestation argument here on the C chart is going to be more land able to be used for agriculture. Okay, remember that's just farming. So that could also be like for food, ranching as well. So ranching, that's like the raising of animals. And then for plantations like palm oil or for palm oil. For products like palm oil. Okay. So basically they cut down those rainforests and they're able to use more of that land, or they're able to use that recently deforested land for things like farming, ranching, or products or plantations where they can grow like plants for products like palm oil. Okay, as we can see here in the photo. These are all palm trees that are actually used and harvested for very versatile palm oil. And then also as well here, we can see the road that also kind of stretches across here that was recently made in place of that deforested area. Okay, next, some other ones here are that, well, obviously, because we have this area for farming, for ranching, for things like products like palm oil, then we also have for deforestation, it's important for the economy. So it's important for actual getting, the money, the dinero. Money. Okay, cha-ching. Big reason why people, why we have deforestation in the first place is that it's helps drive the economy. All right. Another reason why people tend to argue in favor of deforestation, the mass cutting down of forests or rainforests, is that it can actually be sustainable. And what sustainable means is basically it can be, it's not really detrimental in terms of, or they try not to be, the people that try to regulate or try to oversee deforestation efforts, they try to make it to where it's basically however much you take away from the environment in terms of like how much trees you cut down is basically given back at the same exact rate. So we call that like a net zero loss. So you cut down an entire rainforest, and then if it's sustainable, then that means you plant it back. With every single tree that you cut down is replanted, and then it grows back and nothing's really lost. Okay, so that's what they try to do, or at least a lot of the governments that are trying to make deforestation sustainable try and do that, like in areas of Indonesia or Malaysia. So it is government regulated for the most part, and they try to do the best, or at least we think they do their best. And so here are some good arguments. So 5 good arguments for why deforestation takes place in the first place in areas of like Malaysia and Indonesia. Okay, so settlements are able to be created, as in people can live there. They can drive roads that are made there. More land is kind of a big one. Is able to be used for farming, ranching, or products like palm oil. It's important for the economy, very important for getting money. Can also be sustainable, and it's government regulated in terms of sustainability, as in the government or people that are in charge of making sure that deforestation efforts are going according to plan are able to sit there and basically make sure that the companies that do the deforestation aren't just going overboard with it. Okay, it's what we want to believe. Now, kind of getting into the anti-deforestation arguments. Mainly, there's like a sort of this idea that rainforests are extremely important. Okay, and they are. That's just like a fact. All right, and so some reasons why rainforests or how rainforests are important are listed here on this website, Manga Bay. Well, one, they help stabilize the world's climate. So that's actually one of the first ones you can put there. So rainforests, I'll just rainforests here, then later on I'll put RF rainforests. So rainforests help stabilize, or they help keep the climate, fairly average, basically. So especially when we get into like global warming, if the rainforests are cut down at too high of a rate, what that ends up doing to the climate is that certain areas of the world might get extremely hot, and then other areas of the world might get extremely cold. Whereas areas like rainforests, they help to create a sort of like average temperature all around the world. Okay, so we want to make sure that rainforests are there so they can help stabilize, keep the climate, not super freezing or super hot in a lot of areas. All right, another one is that so provides home to many plants and animals. So RFs provide homes to many plants and animals, especially in the areas of like Borneo in Malaysia and Indonesia. In those areas, lots of biodiversity. And what biodiversity means is just a whole bunch of life there, a whole bunch of different species. And if there's they don't have those habitats, they don't have those homes for those species or those plants, then they may go extinct. Okay? Especially when we talk about things like, it's actually the next argument here for anti-deforestation, for preserving rainforests, is that they actually keep 25% of modern medicine or medicines come from rainforests. There are RFs here. There's also potential for more. Like there's so much more plants and animals we actually haven't even discovered yet in these rainforests. Okay, so 25% of modern medicines, as in the medicines that you probably get over the counter, like at HEB or your pharmacy, actually come from areas like rainforests. Okay, so it's actually very important in that regard why we need to maintain those rainforests. Another reason is to maintain the water cycle is a good one. Kind of goes into the climate. Supports people. Supports, they say, as tribal / indigenous people. So basically the people that originally lived there, and they don't want to really go into the more, I guess, industrialized society. They want to kind of keep their traditional way of life there. Rainforests actually support those people. So RFs support tribal indigenous people. And so cutting down the rainforests, these deforestation efforts that a lot of areas like Malaysia and Indonesia do, may actually impact those tribal / indigenous people that may live there. Okay, so it's bad for in terms of tearing down their homes. And then another thing that kind of ties back into the pro-deforestation argument is that the sustainability, as in the government is making sure that that people are doing what they need to be, deforestation, it actually tends to not really be the case. Okay, so there's actually a lot of corruption with those sustainability efforts, as well as the regulations are just not being enforced. Okay. For example, like in Indonesia, there's actually a whole lot of illegal land clearing. Like they have laws against like deforesting too much of the land, but there's still people companies or individuals that actually go out and illegally clear the land despite there being laws against it in Indonesia. Same with Malaysia as well. Okay, so even despite the sustainability argument here for pro-deforestation, there's still a lot of illegal deforestation that goes against the regulations that are just not being enforced really. And then kind of getting to the next part here. So there's all these good reasons here, and I'm going to link this as well in the folder for today. That way you can kind of write out your notes. And then really getting into the palm oil aspect. Okay, so that's actually one of the arguments for deforestation here is the, harvesting of palm oil. And you might be asking yourself already, like, wait, what exactly is palm oil, or what is it really used for? Okay, so using this infographic here, I'm just actually go ahead and zoom on this part first. So you may not think you really use palm oil. You may not really know what it is. What it's actually going to be a very special kind of oil, sort of similar to olive oil, but instead of from olives, it comes from palm trees. And we use it in thousands, literally thousands of products every day. In fact, I think there's a statistic of 50%. So half of what we actually buy in supermarkets today use palm oil in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so like fried foods, like French fries, things like processed foods like Oreos, cookies, bar soaps, toothpaste, like laundry detergent. Palm oil is in like every single one of these things here. Okay, not in everything, but in a good portion of what we buy from like supermarkets. Okay, so there's a massive demand for it. All right. So the pro-deforestation arguments are, oh, we use palm oil a lot. We wouldn't have a lot of these things unless it were for palm oil. We need to deforest more of the land in order to have more palm oil plantations or palm tree plantations. Now, the other side of that, so the anti-deforestation argument for that is like, yeah, palm oil is very versatile. We use it for a lot of things, but it actually is driving this deforestation to the point where it's just ruining our environment, the ecosystem that we need to preserve. So we need tropical forests, and we're losing them to things like palm oil. Okay, the deforestation efforts in order to make things like or areas of like palm oil plantations. So we need to make sure that we're preserving this biodiversity. As the argument goes, we need to help slow global warming. Kind of going back into that, preserving the climate or making sure the climate is stabilized. But these tropical forests are just constantly being cut down in favor of, just making money for the country's economy, like in Malaysia or Indonesia, for areas like these palm oil plantations here. All right, and there's some statistics as well, and I'm going to link this in the folder too. That way you're able to see these statistics a little bit more closely. So in 1990, 14.5 million tons of palm oil was harvested. And then it's only grown up until like 2020, we're 75.6 million tons. So the demand, the want for palm oil is just growing more and more. And with that want is going to come, as you've already guessed, more deforestation. All right. So those companies that are doing and making, doing the deforesting, making these plantations for palm trees to grow the oil, they're just saying, oh, it's going, more and more people are demanding for more palm oil. So we're going to deforest, we're going to destroy more of the rainforest in order to meet that demand, in order to make those other people happy, and we can get profit, we can get money from it. All right. So that's kind of like one of the big reasons why, like us as consumers, we need to be careful. We need to be aware of what exactly it is we're buying. Okay. So whenever we have like half of our products in supermarkets are using this palm oil from palm oil trees from like Indonesia or Malaysia, it creates this demand, it creates this want. Okay. So if we were to stop, okay, if we were just not to buy any of these products, or maybe just buy the other half of the products that don't contain palm oil, then the demand is going to decrease. There's not going to be nearly as many, deforestation efforts, because they're going to, the companies are going to see, oh, wait, we don't really need palm oil nearly as much. So we're going to cut back on the deforestation efforts. And therefore, it's going to help preserve these areas of like Borneo, preserve these rainforests. If you're into the anti-deforestation argument there, and you are more so in favor of, helping the world environment, right, or the world ecosystem. So kind of like the last one here, because we already got into the whole palm oil with how it helps to, actually, no, I didn't add that. So actually, I'll go ahead and add that right now. So rainforests are So they actually damage ecosystems. Okay, so damage ecosystems, especially when we talk about things like efforts to meet demand. Okay, like with palm oil. Okay. Because again, as consumers, if you are constantly, or people are constantly buying and buying and buying things that have palm oil in them, the other countries that are, harvesting and getting the palm oil, growing the palm trees for the palm oil, they're going to grow and want to grow more and more of those palm trees for their oil. So they're going to want to, cut down way more of those rainforests to meet that demand, to meet people wanting more and more of those products. Okay, and then that's going to go ahead and wrap up our arguments here. Okay, so hopefully you were following along and you took notes yourself, and you're able to actually, I actually don't know why the thing went like this, but anyways, as long as you have the pro deforestation arguments here on this side on your note sheet versus the anti-deforestation arguments on the other side here, that's going to be what's really important for tomorrow's debate in class. Virtual students should probably have like a discussion board or something like that, or like a Zoom call where you're able to get into the debate in class. But what's important is that you have these in preparation for tomorrow's actual in-class debate of whether or not you're for deforestation efforts in Southeast Asia or you're against deforestation efforts in Southeast Asia. Okay, so that's going to go ahead and wrap up this lesson video. I hope you all learned something, and I hope you all are prepared for tomorrow's debate. All right, so take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye.